So Elon Musk, mad that this doesn't go far enough. DOGE can't happen here. Would have to happen in an annual budget bill. And even then, the best he can hope for with what he's provided is $180 billion versus $1.6 trillion. This is one of those things that is convoluted out there. And I will tell you this, there is gatekeeping where a lot of people try and make this complicated by design as far as this big, beautiful bill. I am absolutely opposed to increased spending in almost every capacity. Just so you know where I go back and forth between either a flat income tax or a fair tax. Like, I don't even know if we should have an income tax. That's how close to libertarian I am economically. Mm-hmm. Fiscally, unbelievably conservative. So I agree in principle with the problems that Rand Paul has, to be clear. And I understand the problem with raising the debt ceiling. All right, let's be clear about, and I don't like the rhinos out there. But we are going to get into what this big, beautiful bill is, what's in it, what can be done right now, right? This is not an annual budget bill. It's going through a process of reconciliation. There's a difference between mandatory spending, discretionary spending, what can actually be done right now versus what cannot, right? In a way that is final. And I want to ask this, why is Elon Musk so mad? Huge fan of DOGE, especially as we saw these cuts coming through. Wasn't thrilled with the level of receipts that we actually found, about 30% of the numbers, but couldn't be more on board. But I have to ask you, why is Elon Musk, why is he mad? Why is he buddying up with Jack Dorsey? And why is he going behind the Trump administration's back to the press, which is an underhanded thing to do? And here's the number that really sticks out to me. Elon Musk is mad, saying that this bill has a bunch of pork. That's the reason he's mad. Okay, this bill, all references available, link in the description, cuts $1.6 trillion in spending over 10 years. Is it enough? No. Is it a start? Yeah. DOGE, all of their proposed cuts, $180 billion. And they've only given us 30% of the receipts for that $180 billion. So 1.6 trillion over 9 or 10 years versus DOGE's $180 billion. The cuts proposed here are astronomically more than anything Elon has or could come up with. Why is he mad? Why is he backstabbing the guy who put forward $1.6 trillion in cuts? Can you answer me that? I'll get to it in a little bit. I have my guess with not 30% of receipts, 100% of receipts. Is it on your behalf or is it on Elon Musk's behalf? I think it's fraudulent. I think he's selling you a false bill of goods. I think that you can see that 180 billion versus 1.6 trillion. It's not even close. Let me get through what this actually is. Okay. This is a reconciliation bill. It's not an appropriations bill like an annual budget bill. Here's what can be included in a reconciliation bill. Provisions specifically related to mandatory spending. That's where you can have cuts to entitlements like Medicaid or SNAP, namely the fraud or waste or things like the work requirements. Here's what cannot be included in the reconciliation bill, which means it would need to be in some kind of an annual budget bill. Provisions that affect discretionary spending. That would be things like a lot of the DOGE cuts, education. Often the military is included there. Here are some exceptions. According to the reconciliation rules, some military and border spending can be classified as mandatory. So this bill has $150 million allocated for the military and for some very specific projects, to be clear. So Elon Musk, mad that this doesn't go far enough. DOGE can't happen here. Would have to happen in an annual budget bill. And even then, the best he can hope for with what he's provided is $180 billion versus $1.6 trillion over 10 years with this. Let's get past the theater. What's he mad about? Doesn't that matter? And Stephen Miller, who's been knocking it out of the park, summed this up. He said, one of the bigger points of confusion on the big, beautiful bill is spending versus tax cuts. The lefty CBO says that extending the 2017 tax cuts, meaning preventing their expiration, increases the deficit. Some critics have seen this figure and claimed or implied the bill increases, quote, spending. Even according to CBO, the bill cuts spending over $1.6 trillion. So when a libertarian like Rand Paul attacks the deficit impact of the bill, they are attacking the tax cut. Of course, honestly accounted, extending current tax rates has zero deficit impact, which is why the bill, because of its spending cuts, reduces the deficit. You can have an argument about that, but he's making a pretty clear case. A second major point of confusion is what's actually in a reconciliation bill. It is not an appropriations bill or a general budget bill. It provides no funding or authorization for 99+% of the operations of government. It has not a single Democrat provision or vote. The bill has 3 principal sections: tax cuts, welfare reform, immigration, and border security. He says it's a dream bill. Okay. He's right, though, in what he just listed, and we provide all the sources, the references every day. So on to the fight that's taking place and the players involved. And it's this sort of weird alliance of Elon Musk, Rand Paul, Thomas Massie, and Jack Dorsey. Yes, that Jack Dorsey, who helped deplatform and supported the deplatforming of the president of the United States, Donald Trump. That's no small thing.
It's an odd group. They're just missing a dog and a mystery machine.
What?
They're like...
What?
They're like the Scooby-Doo guys.
Oh, okay. All right. My brain was...
I needed the reference.
Yeah, I was. That's a deep cut, and I appreciate it.
The mystery machine is the van. Okay.
So yesterday, Musk had he went on a tear on X. He posted, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it." So don't tell, by the way, Sam from HR, that the bill is full of pork, for obvious reasons.
I won't tell him. Just as long as you won't tell him about that breakfast burrito I gave him this morning.
Oh, no, I lost that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
You lost the breakfast burrito?
Yeah, I lost the... Here it is. Oh, yeah, I found it. Here it is.
Yeah, put a little more in there. Nice. Okay. Oh, hey, Sam. Here, want a burrito?
Well, what? Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Josh, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Josh, that's pretty good, man. A little salty and something I can't describe. Really good in this thing.
So, yeah, I won't tell him.
Once you go bacon,
No, he's full of pork. So
Elon went on Twitter saying, in November next year, we fire all politicians who betrayed the American people. Let me ask you this. Would you feel betrayed if this bill included a massive electric vehicle tax credit? Is that what you voted for? We'll get to that. So he was echoed by people like Rand Paul, Thomas Massie, and Jack Dorsey. Jack Dorsey saying a Rand Paul, Thomas Massie ticket. And just to be clear, this is the same Jack Dorsey, I want to make sure that I have this here, who supported, it's overlay E7, the banning of Trump from Twitter in 2021. He said, "We made a decision with the best information we had based on threats to physical safety, both on and off Twitter." This is a guy who supported the mass deplatforming. So it's interesting that we talk about betrayal. And I don't mean that you have to treat someone as a god king. But if you look at the ulterior motives here, it would seem pretty... What would Musk stand to gain by holding up $1.6 trillion in cuts versus his proposed $180 billion? Well, a massive amount of personal wealth and electric vehicle tax credit and Starlink contract. So,
yeah, you're right. You don't have to back up God King. But Musk and Dorsey kind of on the same team. One guy exposed the other guy for the Twitter files.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah. And I'm trying to make sense of it. And we'll get to Rand Paul in just a second. Like, I can understand Rand Paul's position. I do not in any way right now understand Elon Musk's position. And it goes to the point the numbers obviously don't add up. But also he's saying this is a pork-infested bill. I think Rand Paul will make the point later on that there's about $300 billion in increased spending over 10 years. And that the majority of the debt ceiling increase is going to come from potentially the tax cuts.
According to the CBO.
According to the CBO, right? So that if this was a spending bill that had a bunch of pork spending in it, I would understand Elon Musk's criticism because we do have a very high debt. Got it. And it adds to the deficit. Fine. Every year. But I don't see that in this bill. So it makes me go like, what the hell are you really arguing about?
Yeah. Also, it can't be
And I
done.
don't trust you.
Also, it can't be done.
Yeah.
That's also, at the end of the day, it can't be done. That has to go to an annual budget bill. Do you believe Elon Musk is a stupid person? I don't.
No.
He knows that these DOGE cuts would have to go to the annual budget bill. He knows that. Anyway, going to Rand Paul, because I want to spend some time on Elon and Jack Dorsey.
Yeah.
He was on a warpath yesterday. And again, I probably align most with Rand Paul, probably more with him than any other representative in our government. And even I find him slightly irritating. And he's been on the show like 5 times. Here he is bashing the bill.
We can still be friends and have a disagreement. But to put things in perspective, the bill increases spending for the military and for border over $300 billion. The DOGE cuts, which aren't in this bill, were about $2.
So one thing, and I get what he's saying there, but remember, we had record number of crossings and apprehensions under Biden. Record as far as all of American history, and now record low. Now, could there be some pork in there as far as like giving bonuses out to ICE agents for simply doing their job? Sure, we can be opposed to that. But the idea that we went through record border crossings and we would spend nothing to shore up our border. Let me ask you, is that what you voted for? I don't think so, but let's continue.
$200 billion. So this bill actually increases in the first couple of years spending more than all the DOGE cuts combined. I actually accept that cutting taxes can grow revenue. I believe it happened under Reagan. I believe it happened under the first Trump term. And I supported the tax cuts in the first term. I still support them. I support making them permanent. And I do believe they will bring in more revenue than the CBO projects. My objection to the bill isn't about the tax cuts, and it isn't about those calculations. My objection to the bill is they're going to raise the debt ceiling more than they ever have, $5 trillion, and that this will be the largest increase in the debt ceiling ever. And if the Republicans all vote for it, the Republicans will own the debt.
Go ahead, Gerald.
I don't agree with. So the last part of this thing is that is the one that I disagree with the most, that Republicans will own the debt. That is absolute crap. Republicans have voted to raise the debt ceiling before many, many times. To say that all of a sudden Republicans are going to own this debt and
doing
that's
it for
a problem
30 years.
politically, that's just, it's disingenuous. I'm sorry. That is the part of this where I'm like, he is being disingenuous here. On the other side of it, the CBO is saying the tax cuts are the reason for the necessity of raising the debt limit. So it's really hard to be for the tax cuts and against raising the debt ceiling in the same breath. Though throughout his career, he has been very consistent. He wants to cut spending. I get it. That's a 60-vote bill that you're going to have to pass. This is a 50-vote bill. So just say, I just don't want to raise the debt ceiling, period.
Yeah.
Whatever that means, because that could mean the tax cuts go away.
Right. And by the way, this is
just say
extending
that.
tax cuts. This is not implementing new ones.
Right.
To
And
be clear.
he was for that. I get it. But Stephen Miller makes a great point. You can't. It's all because of the tax cuts, according to the CBO.
Right.
So you have to make a different argument, in my opinion, to be consistent.
So how do you end up with Elon? In other words, he was he gave, I believe, over $200 million of his own fortune to, in one way or another, the President Trump campaign. And now he's not only buddies with Massey or in bed with Massey and Rand Paul, who, by the way, you could be in worse company, but Jack Dorsey, while decrying betrayal. That seems a little bit odd to me, and I think that Massey and Paul are making a principled stand. That's my opinion. I think that Elon stands to gain a lot personally. Here's actually a report from Axios, and it's their White House reporter, Mark Caputo. He wrote an article that Elon was butthurt for 4 reasons. Now, I know that this is a report from a White House source, but this person is usually relatively reliable, and some of these can be publicly fact-checked. So, reason number 1, this legislation cut electric vehicle tax credits. So, there's a termination of this previously owned clean vehicle credit. It was like a $4,000 credit. This bill terminates another clean vehicle credit. It's like $7,500 or a couple. It also terminates qualified commercial clean vehicle credits. And clean, of course, obviously, we're talking about electric, we're talking about green. And Tesla lobbied heavily to keep these. So to give you an idea, JP Morgan's Ryan Brinkman gave an estimate that Trump's bill would decrease Tesla's earnings by 52%.
Holy crap.
And keep in mind that Elon Musk, think about it, he's a guy who's created businesses. He He didn't invent the electric car. He's done more for electric vehicles than anyone else, and I think Teslas are pretty damn cool. They're good to have to me as a second vehicle if you want to. Primary vehicle, gasoline, but I have no problem with Teslas. But he stepped into businesses that he knew, if you look where he has decided to invest, he knows will result in giant government contracts, subsidies, and tax credits. Electric vehicles, space exploration, AI, right? These are the industries he has chosen, and every single one of them involves the necessity of government favoritism.
Jeez, 52% drop in earnings. That's insane.
Reason number 2, again, is to $1.6 trillion cut over 10 years versus his proposed $180 billion, right? DOGE, only 30% of which has receipts. Why is he mad? Why is he butting up with Jack Dorsey? Musk wanted the FAA to use Starlink, but that wasn't allowed because of a conflict of interest. They cited technical reasons, but also, potentially a conflict of interest. That would be reason number 2 he's mad. Trump withdrew the nomination of Jared Isaacman for NASA administrator. When the nomination was withdrawn, Musk publicly wrote on X, "It is rare to find someone so competent and good-hearted." He was upset about it. Allegedly, he also wanted to retain his position at the White House, but he was denied. And here's another one that I can't confirm, but might explain the Jack Dorsey connection. Elon Musk is very much supportive of the idea that AI shouldn't have to deal with IP. And that's a big libertarian talking point. There is a push for AI, not just to help you with your tasks, but for AI to be able to aggregate, assimilate, and then distribute and profit off of all other original content. You write a book, it can now be AI's book. You create a video, it can now be AI. In other words, intellectual property goes away, which would seem to make sense for a man like Elon Musk, whose company is the only one allowed in China, according to the CCP, as a foreign entity. You know who else supports the idea of AI being able to effectively demolish the idea of intellectual property? Well, Jack Dorsey. So it's not just the connection that Dorsey supported banning Trump from Twitter. There are a lot of reasons, and it doesn't seem like those reasons would be looking out for the United States of America. Also, that Jack Dorsey did a lot of bidding for China, right? You guys know that, right? Mm-hmm. Remember that during COVID? Mm-hmm. Remember the Taiwan fiasco? Remember what was going on? Remember the WHO? Remember people being banned? Remember even John Cena had to make a silly apology for releasing Gizmo out there in China? That was going on where Jack Dorsey said, well, we're going to follow the rules of these governments. Why? Because they wanted to have an inroad there. So now we see Elon saying that this is a betrayal to the American people. Again, $1.6 trillion in cuts versus all of DOGE, $180 billion. By the way, I'd like both.
Yes.
I'd like even more. I'd like DOGE to find the $1 trillion they promised.
Yes. Keep going, DOGE. Which
brings us to, you may like him, may not like him. Makes a valid point. Steve Bannon went to blame the entire genesis of the bill on Elon.
The reason, if the big, beautiful bill's got all these problems and it has some issues, he drove it because he promised $1 trillion, ladies and gentlemen, $1 trillion that got him off the hook. It's time for everybody to grow up, run around. Show me where it is. The rescission next week is $9 billion, and $2 billion, folks, is PBS and NPR. Give me a break. Didn't need DOGE for that. Been fighting for that one forever. There's $7 billion in there supposedly of, fraud. On a $7 trillion, he committed to the President of the United States $1 trillion. That's where the Wall Street Journal article the other day said the president said, hey, is this all BS?
So, okay, that could just be conjecture. Unless Elon did actually suggest on the record that DOGE would find at least $1 trillion in savings.
Savings at this point exceed $4 billion a day. Mm-hmm. So it's very significant.
You think you'll wind up getting to $1 trillion?
Yeah.
Of savings?
I mean, unless we're stopped, we will get to $1 trillion of savings.
The number now, $180 billion. Receipts for 30% of that. Big, beautiful bill will cut $1.6 trillion in mandatory spending over the next decade. So, again, on its face, Elon promised $1 trillion in savings, delivered a fraction of that, and is now saying that it's betrayal for anyone to vote for or support a bill that will cut $1.6 trillion. Elon's promised $1 trillion, delivered at best $180 billion. Bill would be $1.6 trillion. That's betrayal. while he goes out and does this publicly and sides with people who were involved with the prosecution, tarring and feathering of the man who graciously gave him the position at DOGE, Donald Trump. Jack Dorsey was happy to see that man go through hell. I guess they really think that he'll have all the power in the universe. Also,
even then, he could only cut half the debt.
Yeah. Also, by the way, this is the guy who did do, he did carry out the will of the Brazilian government, like Elon Musk, on a lot of free speech issues. He's capitulated, as opposed to, I will pat him on the back because Chris Pavlovsky at Rumble, who said, nope, go screw yourself.
Yeah.
So he's been wrong on a lot of issues. And hey, hold on a second. If we're talking about cutting spending, well, how could you push for these EV tax credits? I mean, really? You think the taxpayers want that? Because, hey, if it's a tax credit, I mean, someone else is also on the hook for it. And I understand that other electric vehicles get it, and Tesla doesn't because they've been successful. I think it's over 200,000 or over 250,000. How about no tax credits? How about no subsidies for any vehicles? How about Americans buy the vehicles they want? The people who voted for Donald Trump. And here's the thing, Donald Trump did promise this. Do you remember that? Someone can bring that mission control for later in the show. Remember he said, he likes electric vehicles, but we like gas. They're fine, but we're going to have great gas vehicles. And I think that Elon Musk was stage side going, oh, shit.
And like I said, I don't really understand his argument here. I just want to clarify something. To try to compare apples to apples, we did 10 years on this bill because that's how the CBO is going to score it, is over 10 years. We did 10 years on the DOGE thing as well. I think there's about $158 billion right now, but if you put it out over a 10-year period, they say it comes out to about, over an annual period, it's like $15 billion plus a year. So we kind of plus it up. So $180 billion. That's kind of a generous number right now, but double it. Okay, triple it. We're still not
hold on,
where
you're talking about DOGE.
Yeah,
DOGE, $180 billion. If you annualize the savings, would be $15 billion or so compared to $1.9 trillion over 10 years.
1.6 trillion.
Sorry, 1.6 trillion.
Yes,
6s and 9s look the same.
They do to you. I forgot about that until you said it earlier.
It's a weird 6 and 9 dyslexia.
So that's my whole point to this, is that Elon Musk is a very smart man. He could make a great argument as to why, because there's a lot more characters you can use on X than what you posted. You just said it has a lot of pork in it. Help me understand what you're trying to say. Like, this would be a great time to make the argument for specifically what in the bill you don't like. That's why I can understand Rand Paul's argument, even though I might disagree with it.
Yeah.
He says, just don't increase the debt ceiling so that we don't have more and more and more debt, endless debt, because it's higher. And his real point is the House came in at $4 trillion increase. The Senate said, no, $5 trillion increase in the debt ceiling. So he's even making fun of his colleagues. That's fine. It's a principled stand. I understand it. I have no idea what he's trying to say.
Well, let me walk you.
No idea whatsoever.
Because what happens right now, and by the way, I understand the problems with it. I get the problems with the idea of increased spending. But this is not like the Obama administration. This is not even close. This is not like his omnibus, remember his package that he brought in, and I think that was done through reconciliation in 2009. It was unprecedented. So you can say more of the same, sure. But there's a lot that's not more of the same. And I'm not going to, we have some people out there who are trying to defend Donald Trump who also don't like the bill and say, like, well, that's actually Congress is in charge. No, Leavitt and Donald Trump said this is his big, beautiful bill. So he owns it. Let's compare that. Let's say you don't support everything in there, but let's go through, okay, the question being asked is, is this what you voted for? Let me ask you. Increase in border security and deportations. Is that what you voted for? Okay. Maybe not. Increase in military spending, like the Golden Dome. All right. What about extending the tax cuts, which benefits everyone, including middle-class families? Do you want that? Okay, so people are saying, what did you vote for, right? 1.6 trillion cut over 10 years. Okay, what did you vote for? When you voted for this administration, were you thinking of extending massive electric vehicle tax credits? Did you vote for specifically FAA to issue potentially a no-bid contract to Starlink? Was that on your top to-do list? Were you thinking about who should be the NASA administrator? Which, by the way, of course, Elon Musk would have a vested interest, considering he's also involved in space exploration. So if people are saying this isn't what you voted for, it's a betrayal, I think it's pretty tough for Elon Musk to make the case that it's a betrayal for any measure of spending cuts, especially when it outpaces DOGE, while asking for massive tax credits for electric vehicles to benefit his business that is predicated, by the way, on new green energy. That's the only reason those tax credits exist. Is that what you voted for? Did you vote for Greta Thunberg? Don't bullshit me. And I know some people, we've tried to call balls and strikes. Elon's done a lot of good. It's been largely ineffectual as far as DOGE because we don't have the receipts. It's been nowhere near what he promised, but I'm still on board with it. And if the spirit of DOGE continues and there are more cuts, great. I would like to see, to be clear, tax cuts and spending cuts across the board outside of absolute necessity. To me, strong military and being able to secure our borders falls amongst that.
Yes, and deport people. That costs a little bit of money as well. But so let's just look at what reality really is right now. You have a bill that's a reconciliation bill that needs 50 votes. Well, 51, right? But even 50-50, good old J.D. Vance can go in there and break the tie.
Yeah.
Right? That's fantastic. We don't have to have any, that's Stephen Miller's point. We don't have any Democrat votes. We don't have any Democrat policies in here. That all goes away the minute you introduce a budget bill.
Right.
Because you need 60 votes, which means you're going to have to go and give people some stuff. So debt ceiling increase, if you just push that like Rand Paul wants to do right now, if you just push that to a separate bill, 60 votes. What will you have to give up to get the 60 votes? What will you
in
have
which
to
case
give
you
Democrats?
lose Paul and Massey anyway.
You lose Paul and Massey anyway, and so you have to guess what you have to do. You have to give up more to get more Democrats to vote for the bill. This is a very good way of getting this done. Unless, of course, you think the debt ceiling is never going to be raised again. Is that really the plan right now? Defaulting on the U.S. debt, essentially? I don't really think it is, and that's why I think it's really disingenuous to go out, not just Paul and all these guys, and not make a very clear argument as to why it has to be done your way on this. They're not accounting for the 60 vote thing. They're not accounting for what we'll have to give up for Democrats. What are we going to have to cut?
Yeah.
Do Democrats have any good ideas right now that we're willing to accept so that we can get a debt limit increase? Because they'll bend us over a barrel and just blame us. Be like, you're in control of Congress and Senate and the White House.
Right.
And you couldn't pass the debt ceiling increase. You know how this plays out. Why play directly into their hand? Pass this bill and then get the spending cuts you want in another bill, because it's not going to happen any other way. You're only going to lose more if you push this out into a separate bill.
And by the way, why doesn't the balancing the budget why doesn't it include the tax revenue that'll be generated by removing the credits for electric vehicles? Hey,
I like it.
there you go.
Let's do it.
Right? Right? I don't know. That's just me, Mr. Traditional. But I'm not a huge fan of what I'm seeing out there. And you know what? If you guys, there aren't many. One other thing too, we know this. I know this video won't be seen on X. I'll put it that way.
Why?
You think it's chance that Ashley Sinclair, his baby mama, was making, was it $25,000 to $30,000 a month off of X, and people who've done it their entire, not just me, we're making like $40. Rumble creators don't get views on X. He's not a free speech guy. But that has nothing to do with it. But I know this won't be seen on X, so if you're watching, hey, and if you want us to be able to continue to be objective, I like Chris Pavlovsky at Rumble. I think he's great.
Yep.
I usually like Elon Musk with some of the things that he's done, but I think the mask has come off a little bit. Oh, you're still here watching this on YouTube? There's no more. It's over. Just like YouTube. YouTube is over. It's not a thing anymore. How many Seth Meyers clips do you need? Head on over to Rumble. Follow me there. Live on weekdays at 11 a.m. Eastern, where we can actually speak freely and don't have to self-censor. YouTube it's really not a thing. Like, you ever seen one of those towns that maybe was like a mining town, or maybe they made some kind of alloy? You say, hey, I wonder what they did in this town. It takes a while to find a person who can tell you what they did in that town, and even then you don't fully understand it. That's YouTube. YouTube is that town. So go to Rumble.